a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world, wait for it, one ohm at a time. So this is the first Thursday of July. I want to thank everybody out there that sent me birthday wishes. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birthday wishes from a number of different social media platforms, and for those that have closer relationships, text, and then some people still even sent me cards. So I just want to thank everybody out there who reached out or even thought on the 4th of July, hey, maybe that firework is Dr. Kevin, since my birthday was on the 4th of July. As it is the first Thursday of the month, we always have on the first Thursday of the month Matt Connarton from Matt Connarton Unleashed, who you can catch at 95.3 WMNH, Manchester, New Hampshire, or you can go to mattconarton.com and listen to his show 4 to 6, Monday through Friday, for his drive time show, where you can listen to it through the web if you're not close enough to catch it on the airwaves, and comment. You can also comment on this show, and you can comment on this show by calling in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. Now, I have announced that, today's guest, as always, in the first Thursday of the month, is Matt Connarton, and Matt's not here yet. But Matt let me know he was going to be running a few minutes late, and I figured I'd introduce him before he got here. Oh, are you here now? Oh, you were you weren't late at all.
No, I actually, I was able to be on time. I just, I didn't think I would be able to be on time. So I said I probably wouldn't be on time, but here I am on time.
Well, I'm impressed, and I'm very happy. I didn't hear you slip in. I don't know. Maybe I'm losing my hearing. I thought I would hear something.
Dr. Kevin, I am very stealth.
Is that what they're calling it these days?
Yes.
Yes. So, so Matt is on, and we're going to talk about, we're going to try our best. It's going to be a deep, hard, long, slow, painful dig to dig out anything in the news worth talking about these days. But I have confidence that Matt has come prepared. I'm sure he has found a story from Dubuque, Iowa, of some dog that saved the day over 4th of July weekend. So, Matt, how are you doing? And how's your show surviving with there being no news in the news these days?
Well, we've been spending a lot of time recently on the show on this story about a dog in Dubuque, Iowa, who, it has a happy ending. The dog saved the day.
And I think that there needs to be more recognition of the dogs that saved the day than, these dogs that we put on the Supreme Court that are screwing us over. I don't know. I just think that, what are we going to do? Send them to Russia with Trump? That would be a nice idea. I mean, they really do want to have a dictatorship. But anyways, so what I like to always start with, what's been up for you? What's been on your what's been going on? What's been on your shows? And thank you kindly for your birthday wishes.
I don't think are you being sarcastic? Because I think I missed that it was your birthday.
No, I would never be sarcastic, Matt.
I think I missed it. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I missed it.
That wasn't you that said happy birthday?
But it was July 4th?
My birthday's always been July 4th. You've known me how many years? You can forget that my birthday is July 4th?
I can't be the only one. I mean, that's the day we celebrate our nation's independence. I can't remember more than one birthday.
Hey, that's the day that the nation, that's the day we celebrate the day that our nation had independence.
Right.
Have, questionable. Had, maybe. But let's face it, it's right now, it's riding on my back more than I'm riding on it. So what's been up? Tell me seriously.
I don't know what, I literally don't know what that meant. What? What's riding on your back? What? I don't understand.
You understand? This 4th of July, like the nation's like birthday stuff, secondary to mine. This is secondary to mine. It's riding on my back. Okay. It's riding on my coattails.
Coattails I understand. Back, not so much. Yeah. We've certainly been discussing Roe v. Wade on my show, to the chagrin of my father, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of this, Dr. Kevin, but I believe my radio show has actually ruined my relationship with my father.
Speaking truth to power can make that happen.
Well, yeah.
It shouldn't.
Yeah, my father is... so my father, he's been listening to my show for a while now, and we disagree politically on some things, certainly, but he's tried to be supportive and still tune in. But now, and I've always been pro-choice, and he's always been very pro-life. Even when I was a kid, he was a Democrat. And fairly, I think, liberal overall, except on the issue of abortion. He's always been very pro-life on abortion. He's a devout Catholic, and I think that plays a big role in it. And over the years, he's become more conservative. And today, of course, he's a Trumper and, all of it. But I don't know to the extent that he realized that I've always been pro-choice, but I've always been pro-choice. But now that he's been listening to the radio show, it's in his face every day. And he's been sending me some very, he sends me a lot of text messages, and the last night, the text messages have become increasingly hostile. And late last night, I received a text message from him. He's like me. He's nocturnal. He's up late. I received a text from him that basically indicated that, what did he say? He's ashamed of me, which was the first time he'd ever said anything like that. He said he was ashamed of me. I have blood on my hands, because I'm pro-choice. And, of course, pro-lifers think if you're pro-choice, that means you're in favor of murdering babies. Which is not my position, but he said I have blood on my hands and that I lie. All I do is lie on my show, and that I have demonic energy. I've been overtaken by a demonic power, which I think is a way of saying that he thinks I'm possessed. And what else? Oh, and he said he's not my father anymore. And, and I said to Jenny, Jenny had already gone to bed. She doesn't stay up as late as I do. I said to her this morning, I said, I think my father and I are done. I think he's been telling me off via text message for a little while now because of the show. He went from being proud of me and supportive, even though he didn't agree, to gradually becoming more and more upset. But the text message I got from him last night was so angry and so hostile. I don't know if I'll hear from him again. I don't know if there's a follow-up coming to that. So I think my show may have actually wrecked my relationship with my dad. I mean, that's completely his choice. I look at him and I can't believe how brainwashed he is with his Trumpism. And I never would have expected my father would be brainwashed like that. But I would never turn my back on him over it. You know what I mean? But he apparently has decided I'm no longer his son. And it's funny too, because, my mother, with whom my politics are much more closely aligned, she doesn't bother to listen to the show, but she's the one who would tend to probably agree with everything that I say if she did. But yeah, so it's been kind of messing with me a little bit. I'm very good at compartmentalizing and not allowing personal feelings to interfere with the show or anything. Anything having to do with the show, I generally don't take personally. But this one's kind of messing with my head a little bit because it's my dad. It's been kind of dragging me down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And of course it would. I mean, his disassociation with you over a disagreement about how you see something, anything, goes against several what are considered core Christian principles. And, the funny thing is, as I know you know, that there is nothing Christian about being pro-life, because that's not, if you study the scripture, how they define life. They define life begins at the first breath. And so we know the truth of it is he has been being distorted for generations by his religion, which made it easy for him to be distorted by the Trumpers. I mean, his religion taught him not to question and think, but to rote and repeat. And that's where so much of the Trumpers' energy comes from, and you were the one that has always said, you get these ministers up on these big things and they tell people this stuff, and they set up the whole ability for Trump to create this cult, because that's what they were taught to do. This is what your father was taught to do. Your father was not taught to have independent critical thinking skills. But it's sad. It sucks. It should bother you because he is your father. Mm-hmm. And, he's at a place where you're making him question a comfortable, familiar, mental and emotional reality that he doesn't have the cojones to question. And it's sad, but he literally doesn't have the cojones to question it. Because if you are truly in alignment with your God, then you don't need to shove him down anybody else's throat. It's unnecessary. God never said. And nobody will ever have more blood on their hands than the Catholic Church. So it's really hard to stand on an altar of purity about your Catholicism when it is the core of still horrendous things that happen based on the fact that they created the concept, not what I shouldn't say created, but massively moved forward the concept of conversion by the sword and white supremacy thinking. So your show is asking him to question things that he doesn't have the emotional, mental, or spiritual maturity to be able to question. And you're probably creating any number of earthquakes in his inner landscape. And I know that's not your goal, Matt, but what you're experiencing, there are millions of people experiencing it right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
With family members who are so insecure in their beliefs that they have to adopt a highway or my way. Because if you keep talking and you keep making sense to some little part of my brain, if you point out some way in which I have been fooled, then if I've been fooled by Donald, and I've been fooled by the Donald GOP party, because there's two parties. There's two GOP parties, the Donalds and the non-Donalds. The Donalds and the Mickey Mouses, so to speak. And then, it's like that poem I wrote, which I don't think you ever heard, but, that challenges people who automatically hate me and put me in hell because I'm gay. And that they have to hold on to that. And there's a line in this poem that says, because if the men in black robes lied to me about that, what else might they have lied to me about? Perhaps I do not know the way to heaven. And you have to understand that this fragile attachment to a need to say, my miserable life at some core level, that I didn't have the cojones to live fully, that I needed to live into a box that was set aside, that was set up for me to stay small and obedient to my religion, instead of loud, proud, out there, being fully myself and changing the world, whatever that self is, that's scary. Spiritually, he's a child. And you're a nightmare. Because you're telling him Santa Claus doesn't exist, the Easter Bunny doesn't exist, and if he believes you on that, then what else might you be right about?
Well, it reminds me of something Jenny keeps telling me. She said, she said to me, you can't compete with the invisible man in the sky. And Jenny's an atheist, as you might guess from that comment. I'm more sort of quasi-agnostic, I suppose. But with me, it's a little more complicated. But what Jenny is saying, in other words, my father believes that there's an invisible man in the sky who says that abortion is murder. So there's no competing with that. I cannot compete with the invisible man in the sky, which makes perfect sense. But I don't think my father... Oh, go ahead.
But the thing is, the invisible man in the sky didn't say that. Did not say that at all. If you read the scriptures, that's not what he said. It was a man right here that is living, breathing, that was being promoted, supported, and driven by greed and power and control that said that. And it has nothing to do with the visible or invisible man in the sky. And that's what they don't want to see. But go ahead. What else were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think I'm causing my father to question anything. Because I think he's so firm in his belief. I think he just thinks that I've been, he told me that, there's an entertainment culture of death that I've fallen into. And I think he thinks I'm the one who's brainwashed. I think he thinks that I've been brainwashed by the left. And, but I mean, I've always been pro-choice, always, for as long as I can remember. And I got interested in politics at a really young age. I was just a little kid when I always say I got interested in politics at an unhealthily young age. So I've always had these views. So it's nothing new. I said to him at one point, I said, we're the same people we've always been. Nothing has changed. But now that I'm, he hears me on the radio every day, and, he thinks I'm, it's not like anyone's going to get an abortion because of me and my views. I mean, I'm not, just because I get on the radio and talk about it, but I think he thinks I'm somehow contributing to this culture of death, as he puts it, and that's why I have blood on my hands. But it's crazy.
Well, we're coming up to our first break, but I do want to go back about the whole you don't think you're changing his mind. I want to come back to that when we get back here on the Dr. Kevin Show, here on OMTimes. And remember, 202-570-7057. Join us for the conversation.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. I'm here with Matt Connarton from Matt Connarton Unleashed. You can listen to Matt Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., 95.3 WMNH, Manchester, New Hampshire. If you are not local to that airwave, you can go to mattconnarton.com or ipmnation.com. That's mattconnarton.com or ipmnation.com, and still listen to his show, still weigh in and hear what's hot and what's not going on in the political, socio-political world that we live in today. And you can call in today's show at 202-570-7057 and be part of the conversation. So we were talking about your father, and I want to revisit something I said, because not just for you, because I don't know how much of a difference this is going to make to you, but there are a lot of other people suffering through this thing. And the trouble is, people who are strong in themselves, in their self-worth, in their self-esteem, people who are strong in their knowing of what their relationship is with whatever you want to call whatever it is. You know, I've always been a fan of the Great Pumpkin. Can have these conversations without getting angry. They don't have to name call. They can state their opinion. They can listen to what other people have to say. They can consider it. They can have civil conversations. They don't have to dig demons out of some imaginary hell, because the demon is right there on the other end of the text line. And it's his demon. But my point is that these people that are so rigid are rigid because they are in fear that if they question, they might question. Their rigidity is they can't question. They can never question because some part of them knows it's a lie. Does that make sense when I say it that way?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you made your father question. I'm saying over time, if he listens to you long enough, he might make the fatal mistake to his Catholicism and Trump support by actually allowing a question to come in and ask it. And that's why they get adamant. That's why they get violent. That's why they get mean. And that's why they go in and they attack the other. And
yeah. Well, I think I know what, why this has happened though over time, because I've noticed over time, like I said, my father was a Democrat when I was a kid, and but the one thing he was always conservative on was abortion. I remember growing up, it was the one thing he really liked about Reagan, how outspokenly pro-life Reagan was. And it was literally the only nice thing he had to say about Ronald Reagan. But I think that because of that, because I noticed back during the George W. Bush administration, he wasn't a big fan. He didn't like the wars and whatnot, but there seemed to be some things where he sort of agreed with the administration, tepidly so, but not terribly enthusiastically. But I noticed a gradual change, and he was talking about watching Fox News. I think that because of him being so pro-life, he was around a lot of people, especially, in the church, around a lot of people who were also pro-life, who tended to be, politically conservative. So I think over time, because he's been around people who are politically conservative so much, being pro-life, something, that it begins to change in one's mind, and I was just looking online at, do you remember, he's still alive actually, but I think he's long retired. Do you remember a journalist named Mort Kondracki?
Name sounds vaguely familiar, but fill me in more.
Yeah, Mort Kondracki. He used to be on Fox News a lot, but he also was on. He had a show with another journalist called the Beltway Boys, and he was also on that show Capital Gang, which was on PBS Friday nights with John McLaughlin. The guy who would go wrong. And anyway, Mort Kondracki apparently was kind of a liberal guy early in his journalism career, but he became conservative. And I remember my dad having a conversation with me, and this was like probably mid-1990s. I was at my dad's house because I had long moved out, but I was at his house and we were watching a little bit of the news. And Mort Kondracki comes on, and my dad says to me, he points to, and my dad was still fairly liberal at this point, again, except on abortion, but he points to Mort Kondracki and he said, he used to be very different. Something happened to him. I don't know what it was, but something happened to him that caused him to switch ideologies completely. And I've never forgotten that moment, because now I look back and it's like my dad has become Mort Kondracki. Something happened to my dad. Again, I think I know what it was, but something happened to my dad that caused him to completely switch ideologies. And now he's, 25, 26 years later, now he's Mort Kondracki.
Yep. Well, one of the things that can harden in it can go either way. It's like it's two different points, like 180 degrees apart. And is any kind of brush with death or near-death experience, or something that hits your, I am a mere mortal and death is waiting for me and death is closer than it's ever been. And sometimes that happens if somebody that's just like a close friend or that was a classmate, or if people start to die and you go, those are my generations, they're too young to die. Because inside we're going, I'm too young to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your father had any kind of brush with death or near-death experience, sometimes it either liberates us from a claustrophobic religion of our childhood where we actually do see the light. We see like, this is, I need to like get this act together. Or it can completely put us in cement and do a complete turnaround to the religion of our childhood, because some part of us goes, where am I going to go when I die? What happens when I go? So I don't know if anything like that happened to your father, but that can be a near-death experience, or the death of someone that's close to you can create that kind of ideological shift. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
So again, I don't know if that's what happened to your father, but that is one possibility.
I mean, I don't know of anything specifically that happened to him, but that could be. Could be.
I mean, it could be you could be right. It could be the church. It could be, and it could be even the fact that if the church community is strong, that there was a lot of loss. I mean, we all lost a lot of people or knew of a lot of loss on one hand or another during the pandemic. And again, you see people that are your age dying in your congregation, it makes you a whole lot more like, well, if this is all true and this is what I really believe, and I'm really going to be judged, am I gonna go through, or do I need to pack a bag of marshmallows?
Yeah.
That's the trouble with hell-based religions. That was one of the first schisms of Unitarians and Universalists back in the Second Council of Nicaea, the Second Catholic Council of Nicaea, where they were deciding what the Bible were going to say, and it's very well documented, and what to leave in and what to take out, and blah, 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 blah. That the Unitarians nor the Universalists believed in a heaven or a hell or a Trinity. And so they became like excommunicated and hunt down and burned for hundreds of years for being Unitarian or Universalist, because they didn't carry the Catholic view of the Trinity and the Catholic view of what happened to Jesus, which was being openly discussed and voted on by a bunch of people, none of who were alive when Jesus died.
Yeah.
Who all were only going off hearsay. I mean, the original model of a dysfunctional Congress. Nobody cared about the truth. Everybody cared about what could they sell in the religion and what was going to benefit them most.
Right.
And they decided on Trinitarianism.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of near-death experiences, my dad, by the way, I just realized I left out something. He also blames me for, Glenn R.J. Willett, the people's mayor.
Yes.
He just had a heart attack, and my father blames me partially for that because we picked on Glenn on my show. Yeah.
The thing is the minute you would choose to engage in a witch hunt, you will always find a witch.
Yeah.
And, I have always, I think of two things. I think of two things that came to my mind when you were telling the story. One was, you remember Nacky Loeb?
Mm-hmm.
Wife of old Willie, young Nacky Loeb, when she took over the newspaper, when all of the AIDS stuff was first coming, and it was the gay disease, and it was the thing like this. She wrote a big, huge editorial about how it was on the front page of the Union Leader, how this was God's justice for the gay community, and that gays deserved to die. She put it right out there on the front page. And knowing who I was, my mother left it on the table for me to see. Like, put it on the table to make sure I read that.
Oh, God.
And when my first book came out in spiritual stuff, and I was talking to my mother, and I said that she was in my dedication, this was many years later, she said, "You didn't use my real name, did you? I wouldn't want anyone to know you're my child." So
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah. She couldn't, now she never disowned me. She never, but there were times when it was very clear that she did not have the capacity to rectify in her mind how she was brought up and what she chose to believe, what she believed. Didn't even recognize it as a choice, which is always a sad moment, but most people don't understand it's a choice. Yes, you have a choice. You didn't have a choice in your childhood. You were exposed to it. You have a choice as an adult to challenge it, examine it, see. But again, when Roe v. Wade fell, I was at the UUA General Assembly, surrounded in person by 1,500 Unitarian Universalists. So let's say it was a explosively emotional day. We had another 1,500 online, all that. But, you know, I love my little denomination because between 500 and 600 of them went out and joined the people in Portland, Oregon, and marched the streets against it. You know, at least like getting out there. Another couple hundred went and supported a climate justice thing that we said we would. But anyways, yeah, emotional time. But time for us to take the gloves off. If we're going to save anything left that looks like this country, we have got to get out there, and we have to be getting the vote out at the lowest levels, because this is where the timbers are getting most rotted with people who don't like people other than them, that are going to have all sorts of little powers to do all sorts of great amount of damage in the city, town, and state level. If we're going to take our country back, we got to do it one city, one town, and one state at a time, by showing up, by voting, by challenging, by not sleeping through the elections, by not paying attention, by not saying it's not important who gets this position. At this point, every position is important because you don't know how it's going to be leveraged. That's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on all the whole Roe v. Wade thing? Where do we go from here?
Well, yesterday on my show, and you've heard me say it before, I was talking about how, the way I see it, and I'm an independent, and the way I see it, we have two political parties. One is just completely repulsive and psychotic and authoritarian and doesn't really believe in democracy, as evidenced by their attempt to subvert it. And we have the other party, which is so weak and ineffective and feckless and timid and unable to fight for anything. So it's pretty discouraging. In fact, I was talking yesterday about, I didn't understand a lot of the antipathy toward Kamala Harris for a while. I thought some of the criticism of her was unfair, but then I saw this interview, Dana Bash, interviewing her, asking about Roe v. Wade and what the Democrats plan to do and how they're going to respond to this and whatnot. And watching Kamala Harris, her response was just so, I could sum it up this way. Well, we can't really do anything about it. We're Democrats. We can't do anything. You want us to do something? Again, not literal, but I'm summing it up. She is so emblematic of just a Democratic Party that is so useless and so unable to. No wonder people are discouraged with the Democrats. How do you support a party that won't stand up for you? That won't fight, that just makes excuses about why they can't get anything done, why they can't get anything done to codify abortion rights, or why they can't get anything done to protect voting rights, or any number of things that they just, even when they're in control, they just can't do because they can't get out of their own way, and they're so terrified of upsetting Republicans because, if they actually do anything, then when the Republicans are back in control, they're going to be extra vicious, So it's very frustrating. When that draft leaked out of the Supreme Court, everybody knew what was coming as soon as that draft leaked. But what was done about it? What did Democrats do about it to prepare for what everyone knew was coming? A whole lot of nothing. Do you realize, Dr. Kevin, that there are now 4 Northeastern Republican governors who are pro-choice Republican governors who have said they are going to make sure to codify abortion rights in their individual states, which means that by those 4 Republican governors committing to do that, there are Republicans who have already done more, who are in the process of doing more to protect abortion rights than what Democrats are doing. I mean, think about the absurdity of that, but that's where we are. There are pro-choice Republicans more effective at actually doing something about it than the entire Democratic Party. It's really pathetic.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the last segment of the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes. I'm here on the first Thursday of the month, as I am always here with the most optimistic, merry, sunshine person that I know in the whole universe to give us hope, inspire us, motivate us, and direction on how we can take back our world. And that would be none other than Matt Connarton, who always finds the silver lining and always helps us find the way forward. You can listen to Matt spreading his sunshine out of some orifice of his every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 at WMNH, Manchester, New Hampshire, 95.3, or you can go to mattconnarton.com, or you can go to ipmnation.com and listen to Matt hit that high falsetto C, singing about the grand old flag. Matt, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, there are two choices. Figure out better solutions or bend over and take it. And I just don't bend. I am not saying that the Democrats haven't done some useless things. I got a little bit of hope from an article I read this week that we've got a lot of Gen Zers joining the Democratic Party, and they're not interested in compromise with the Republicans. They're not interested. There are a fully fed up set of identified Democrats who are this next generation coming in, and they're not looking, and they're starting to show up is that they're showing up and they're winning some primaries. So we need to get better Democrats in, because we got 4 states that are going to be pro-choice, but overall, until until the Republican Party has rid itself as the locust plague known as the Trump family and all of their attachments, and, until the majority of Republicans' favorite lipstick color stops being brown, I can't vote for any of them. And I've always thought of myself as an independent, but I just can't give them the power of the vote, especially when they don't stand up and then they go do pull a Susan Collins. Oh my, he lied to me. Imagine that. I am so verklempt. Susan, you need to run out of town on a rail with Brent Boy, riding you. So the question is, what can we do? What can we do to move forward? Because I ain't going to sit around and go, boo, hoo, 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 they're all horrible. I'm giving up. You want to do that? Go to Canada. Go to Mexico. Get the hell out. Either do something positive and move us forward or get out. Because we're not going to change it by talking about how bad it is. If we need better Democrats, then let's go out and friggin' find them. Run for office yourself, Matt. You want to go make some change? Run for an office. You never can tell how much power you could have as being Manchester's dog catcher.
I'm more of a cat man.
There are so many things I could say there, but I won't. Because that's how I have to move forward. I have to move forward with the what can I do? Because, as trite as it sounds, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And, one of the things that Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, who is the current president of the Unitarian Universalists, is we are not a casual faith. It is not time for us to be casual. We have to be out there. We have to do things. We had a minister in Laramie, Wyoming, that the minute that Roe v. Wade dropped, she had a banner out on the side of the church saying, if you need help to find a way to get to a place to have an abortion, come here.
Yeah.
So we got to be on the ground. We've got to make changes. We have got to, if we got the wrong people in office, get them hell out of the office. But you have the Tea Party Republicans, you have the Kool-Aid Trump Republicans, and then you got the Republicans who are moving into becoming independents. But, and then I have no patience at all with the people that say, I just couldn't vote for Hillary. Well, this is what we got. She told us it was coming. So I don't even want to hear it. Because this is what staying home got you. So that's the question. What do we do to move forward? Or we can move to talking about the Ukraine, or what do you think of the latest hearings of January 6th? But I am not peddling just give the frig up and accept we're screwed.
Right. Well, I mean, if we had a Democratic Party that was capable of leading, they should be working right now to pass something. They have control. They have control of both the legislative and the executive branch. They should work to pass something, do a special carve-out for the filibuster or end the filibuster if they have to, and try to pass something on abortion and codify abortion rights, but they don't have the balls to do it.
So we need to go find the ones who do. Again, what can we do?
Yeah.
What can we do? Besides wring our hands and sound like pathetic old ladies. Stop sounding like a pathetic old lady, Matt.
It's not me. It's them. I mean, my God. By the way, I said this on my show, and I'm the only, as far as I know, I'm the only person in all of media to say this. But I blame part of this on Biden directly because I feel that he actually set the tone after the election for the current state of weakness of the Democratic Party. When he won the election and the Republicans were refusing to admit that he won the election or participate in any sort of a transition, and when asked by the media, or any other Democrat, but Biden set the tone, when asked by the media, well, what are you going to do here? There's people dying of COVID. We don't have the vaccines yet. They're coming. But what are you going to do? They're not cooperating with the transition. Emily, what's her name? I forget her last name, who was running the General Service Administration at the time, was refusing to sign off on the transition, to get this thing going at a critical time. And Biden's response was, oh, they will. They'll come around. These Republicans, this was a tough election for them. They need time to grieve. They'll come around. And I'm telling you, if I were just elected to the presidency, that wouldn't be my answer. Oh, they'll come around. You just take that for granted. Oh, yeah, they just need a little time. They'll come around. Meanwhile, people are dying of COVID because we don't have a clear and coherent policy. And then, you give them more and more time to, quote unquote, come around. Eventually, you end up with January 6th. So my answer would have been, no, Emily, what's her name? She needs to hurry up and sign off on the transition, and she needs to do it now. I won the election. She needs to sign off on it. We need to get this transition going. And if she's not going to do that, we will go to court, and we will do whatever we have to do if we have to sue in court to get this transition done. But he set the tone with this, I want to unify the country. I want to be a unifier, so we'll just give them time. We'll give them time, and they'll come around eventually. And I'm telling you, I really believe that. Biden set the tone with that for a weak, feckless Democratic Party that is not willing to fight. He wasn't even willing to fight for his own election. He was willing to, after he had already won it, he was willing to let them just take their sweet time until they were finally ready to give him his victory. He was willing to sit back and wait for it. And here we are. So I really believe, I blame him for a lot of this.
I do not disagree that, but Sleepy Joe, the unifier, the benignness of him is part of what got him the vote from the people that were done with the Trump chaos, and they didn't want. That's how he got elected. I don't disagree with you at all. And I'm going to tell you, if that had been Hillary winning that election, she would have kicked Emily's butt herself out of the chair.
I agree. I agree. Yes.
She wouldn't have put up with any of that shit. She would have pulled all those strings.
You're right. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think about that part. But you're right. If it had been Hillary, yeah, she would have fought. She would have said, "No, you're not keeping this from me. I won. Let's get moving." You're absolutely right, Dr. Kevin.
Yep. But this country was so tired of the Trump mania, madness, unpredictability that Sleepy Joe looked pretty good. And they wanted, and he was out of touch with how out of touch the Republican Party had become with ethics and morals. And I can only hope we find somebody better to run in 2 more years, because I don't, he has called to an end of the filibuster. So, he's pushing now to do it. But he also has to do, we can't keep all of the Democrats walking in the same direction. There's the Republican Party, the independents who couldn't stomach being part of the Trump GOP party is what independents have become. And then everybody else is in the Democratic. And of course, I really think we need 3 equally powerful parties. And I keep on hoping that this is going to lead to the rise of a true independent party that has true equality and voice and power. If I'm going to put wishes out there, that would be one of them. That we have to destroy the old party structure. It doesn't work. Just like we have to destroy the Electoral College. It doesn't work. We have to change that the Supreme Court justices don't get lifetime appointments. that, like Germany, they can serve 12 years or until they're 62, and then they're done. I think it's 62 in Germany. Like there's like whichever comes first. You age out. That you're gone, and it creates a Supreme Court that can't. I mean, because they look for every young, Federalist trained, screw over anybody that doesn't sound or look like them people. And of course, I'm sure you've talked about this on your show, and I know it's been filed, but I don't know if it's been filed properly or how, but I want to keep on seeing lawsuits to overturn the interracial marriage Supreme Court amendment. Because if Clarence Thomas, based on why he says he can get rid of gay marriage and why he said, why he's going to say, yes, Texas can put sodomy laws back in place, like anybody should ever be able to control what kind of sex happens between two consenting adults, then I think it's time that, him and Ginny got divorced so we could put her in orange and lock her up where she belongs.
Agreed.
Matt, I will see you at the beginning of August. Give my love to Jenny. And you have a great month.
All right, Dr. Kevin. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.